particular group. It's not a religious group, yet believes Islam should be implemented in the daily life between people, but not in politics.
The differences erupted into more intense fighting in 2007, until Hamas ultimately drove Fatah out of the Gaza Strip. It remains to be seen what the effect of the complete Islamization of Gaza will be like. Whatever the outcome, Imad and his moderate views seem wildly out of place.
I'm a peaceful person enjoying a steady life and do my best to stay this way. I never try to force my thoughts on anyone, and at the same time, don't let others direct my thinking. Whenever I face radical minds or thoughts, I try to surpass it and carry on with my plans. My methodology is simply based on presenting my thoughts objectively. I want to present Islam in a correct manner and prove that we can keep promises and international treaties. I wish to present Islam's actual identity, to let the rest of the world know that though we may disagree, we can coexist.
I worry that the fighting between Hamas and Fatah has disheartened Ahmed al-Fallujah to the point where he and others like him will give up.
The culture of disagreeing is very much a part of the Islamic movement. It's either I agree with them entirely or I become an enemy. Hamas offered me during the past elections to be a part of the movement, but I said no. Their culture is to be with them or against them. To them, there are only two camps. It's either theirs or the enemy's. This is a lethal culture.
And Emma then raised a serious problem that we Arabs must confront: the culture of revenge. This is something hard for an Arab to admit, but it's so true and so sad.
We don't know the meaning of winner and loser, and that the loser should learn from his mistakes and try to overcome them. And the winner should know that the loser is not an enemy. The culture of accepting the other and the other's opinions is not part of our beliefs yet. Revenge and not democracy is the prevailing policy in the region. That's the real danger.
I visit منتصر الزيات from time to time in Cairo. I enjoy his company, and I trust him completely. How someone treats their children is often a good measure of their values. منتصر has 2 sons and 2 daughters. So I asked about their upbringing.
I have raised my children on freedom. I don't want them to go through what I went through. I don't want my son Khaled to be a member of a secret Islamic religious group. I don't want my son or daughters to be extremists. I didn't force the veil on my daughters. I present them with the information and they choose. I have a TV and a satellite dish at home, and I trust their judgment to watch what is right for them and match our principles. I want them to preserve the good teachings of Islam and still be part of the society.
He ran for election not long ago, but he felt the process was corrupt. And he won't do it again. But it's another indication that he means what he says.
Islam means the right of the nation to choose its leaders. Islam means the right of a nation to get rid of a leader, the right to question its leader. Islam means choosing representatives for the nation by election. Islam allows this to happen, and this is the crux of democracy as well.
And he believes that Islam and democracy can coexist.
I imagine that democracy and the political Islam together would be a difficult task, but not an impossible one. Despite many radical Islamic groups, some coexistence could be successful.
Something else I found out about منتصر. He's been to the United States and he loves it.
When I visited the United States in 1991, I was impressed by what I saw there, and I wrote a series of articles in love with America. I was always worried sleeping in my own country. I used to sleep like a baby in America.
Over the course of my conversations with these three ex-extremists, I found self-reflection to be the most important common denominator. And that self-reflection allows them to admit their mistakes and open themselves to other perspectives.
One of the main negative points of the Islamic groups is their belief that their understanding is the best understanding of Islam. We used to monopolize the truth. We used to monopolize the ways to implement Islam. We used to come up with the verdict first, and then look in the religious books for something that verifies this verdict and excludes other opinions that don't back up our verdict. We were ignorant then, and now it's clear that Islam is a religion that has many different understandings.
I suppose you could argue that there's nothing like torture to make someone confess a mistake, but that's a bit cynical. The depth of Mansour al-Naqadan's self-reflection, for example, is remarkable.
And when he came to know that these values are wrong, he was able to transform himself and be this man. The Mansour which I know now is a very modern man, open-minded. I cannot see anything indicates that he was an extremist once in his life. I'm living very happily with him. He's very peaceful. He's got a very inner peace inside him. And he deals with us, me and Yusuf, in a very superior and noble way, a very gentleman. I thought that when he proposed, I thought that he will be such a kind of person. I thought that life taught him, and he taught himself in life how to transform into a better man. And that's why I agreed and I insisted to marry this person.
What happened to me is nothing more than a personal experience. Extremism hasn't become a plague yet. Fanatics are still a minority, and their expansion must be hampered. This needs hefty will and collaboration between all society sectors. The massive gap between fundamentalism and modernism has to be filled by understanding and forgiveness.
When someone can accept blame for himself and his religion, they become even more credible in my eyes when they lay some of the blame on others.
The West has also added to the backwardness of Muslims by abusing their culture and resources in many occasions, a factor which has triggered hatred to the West. Supporting and imposing tyrant regimes in many Muslim countries is another motivation for hard sentiments toward the West. When desperation fills people's hearts, rational thinking recedes and is usually replaced by extremism.
While these three men now practice moderation and work towards change, the times are more difficult because of the overwhelming American influence.
Certain cultures became dedicated to changing other cultures. believing it's for the good of the world, ignoring the right of choice. We are living a world of limited options, either to be on board of the American train or end up being shredded under its wheels.
I wish the West, Americans in particular, would understand Islam better. While I understand their fear, it's sad that so many see Islam only as an extreme religion built around martyrdom.
The West is carrying an unfair campaign against Islam in retaliation for the beliefs of Al-Qaeda. That's what caused this fear of the formation of an Islamic State. I believe the West's fear of Islam originates from linking it to terrorism. This is unfair and a big mistake. Islam never called for violence or killing of civilians. As a matter of fact, Islam is the most among religions to plead for a dialogue with others of different beliefs or thoughts. Quran invites Christians, Jews, and believers of all religions to communicate with us, and forbids Muslims to use force to compel people to join the religion. The Islam of Bin Laden is not the peaceful Islam we know. Islam should be judged for what it is, and not for what the others present as their understanding of Islam. We want to present a civilized form of Islam, and then we'll gain the respect of the world.
My conversations with these three men has only confirmed for me that any fault is not with Islam, but with the radical individuals who interpret it for their own political exploitation. I see these men and their stories of change as hope for progress, their courage to speak out and admit their mistakes, their self-reflection and their openness to dialogue sets an example not just for those of us in the Middle East, but for the entire world as well.